Have you ever wondered what love felt like in the times of kings and queens? When poets carved their hearts into stone, and marriage was celebrated as a union of not just two people, but of entire worlds? Tonight, let us wander together through the sands of Egypt, the temples of Greece, and the palaces of India, to uncover the tender stories of love and marriage that have shaped our history and still whisper to us today. Before we begin, drop in the comments. How old were you when you had your first love? Let's remember the feeling. Remember one thing. Whether your first love was a good experience or not, you learnt through it, so it was your growing path. Okay, let's begin. Close your eyes. Let the world around you fade away. Take a deep breath in and out. Imagine you are traveling back, far back, beyond the pages of history, to a time when the first fires of love were felt, long before the world looked anything like it does today. There are no cities, no lights, no noise, just starlit skies stretching endlessly above, and the quiet heartbeat of the earth below. In this world, love is not spoken with words. It is seen in glances, in gestures, in the warmth of two hands brushing against each other near the fire. This is where our journey begins, at the dawn of love. Long before there were written words, love existed as a feeling, as an unspoken connection between souls. Imagine early humans, living in small tribes, finding comfort and safety in one another. To share food, to share warmth, was the earliest expression of love. There were no rings, no ceremonies, only the simple act of choosing someone to sit beside at the fire, to wake up next to when the sun rose. Love, in its purest form, was survival, and yet even then, it carried something magical. A look in the eyes that said, "I see you, I am with you." When a man brought a piece of carved wood or a shiny stone to a woman, it wasn't just a gift, it was his heart, his way of saying, "I care for you." And when she returned that gaze with a smile, that was love, raw, untamed, and eternal. Over time, love became more than survival. It became a story of the spirit. In ancient tribes, people believed love was a blessing from the gods. They thought that the stars above were watching over lovers, weaving their destinies together like threads on a loom. Close your eyes. Imagine a man and a woman, thousands of years ago, standing beneath a dark sky, lit only by firelight and stars. He offers her a necklace made of seashells collected over days of travel, each shell carefully polished, each one chosen with care. She takes it, not with words of thanks, but with a soft touch on his hand. No language was needed, the heart understood. Love, they believed, wasn't just a feeling. It was a force that tied one soul to another. And even in those early times, love felt eternal. As humans built their first civilizations, love grew with them. In Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers where some of the world's first cities rose, love was celebrated in songs and poetry. The people of Sumer wrote about love on clay tablets, using sharp tools to carve their feelings into the earth itself. One of the oldest love poems ever discovered, written over 4,000 years ago, speaks of a bride praising her beloved, calling him the lion of her heart. Imagine thousands of years ago, someone wrote a love poem that still whispers to us today. In those times, love was both passion and partnership. Marriage was often arranged, but love found a way to bloom. The Sumerians believed that love was sacred, a gift from their goddess Inanna, the goddess of beauty and desire. They would sing songs to her, asking for blessings in love, for a bond that would last through all seasons of life. Throughout ancient times, love was shown not just with words but with gifts. A man might give his beloved a small hand-carved figure of an animal, symbolizing strength and protection. A woman might weave a cloth for her husband, stitching into it her prayers for his safety. Imagine sitting in an ancient village. You see a young man return from a long hunt. In his hands he carries a simple token, perhaps a smooth stone shaped by the river, or a rare feather found on his journey. He doesn't need to speak. He simply places it in her hands, and her eyes light up like stars. This was love. Soft, quiet, and deeply felt. No need for grand gestures, just the warmth of knowing that someone thought of you, even when they were far away. In many ancient cultures, love was seen as something larger than life, as though the universe itself conspired to bring two souls together. People believed that love was written in the stars, that each person was born with a destined partner. Under the open skies of ancient lands, lovers would gaze at the constellations and imagine that the stars were telling their story. A shooting star was seen as a blessing, a sign that love would endure. Picture yourself lying on warm sand thousands of years ago, your hand resting gently in the hand of someone you love, watching the stars above. The world is quiet. You feel the wind on your face, and in that moment, you understand, love has no time. It has always existed, and it always will. In the eyes of ancient people, love was more than two hearts beating as one. It was sacred. It was a gift from the heavens, a blessing whispered by the gods themselves. To love was to touch something eternal, something holy. Tonight, we continue our journey to explore how love was celebrated as a sacred force, carved into temples, sung in prayers, and worshipped as though it were life itself. Imagine standing at the base of a towering stone temple thousands of years ago. The air is thick with incense. People gather not just to offer food or gifts to their gods, but to pray for love, to ask for a bond that would last beyond this life. In ancient cultures, love was often seen as the breath of the divine. It was believed that when two people loved each other deeply, their souls were connected by invisible threads spun by the hands of gods and goddesses. The Greeks believed in Eros, the god of love, who shot arrows of passion into hearts. The Egyptians worshipped Hathor, goddess of beauty and joy, asking her to bless their unions with happiness. In India, love was seen as a spiritual path, where the union of two hearts mirrored the connection between humans and the divine. In ancient Egypt, love was celebrated not only in life, but also in death. When a couple loved each other, they believed that their connection would continue in the afterlife. Husbands and wives were often buried side by side, their tombs filled with tokens of their affection, rings, letters, even small drawings of them holding hands. Imagine the banks of the Nile at sunset, golden light shimmering on the water. A young woman stands with a papyrus scroll, reading a love poem to her beloved. These poems still exist today, etched into history for over 3,000 years. One such poem reads, "With your love, the sun rises, and my heart beats like the drum of a festival. Without you, I am but a shadow on the sand." Love for the Egyptians was life's greatest blessing. It was whispered in every corner of their culture, from the carvings in their temples to the symbols painted on their walls. Love in ancient times was often celebrated with rituals that felt like magic. In some cultures, lovers would exchange knots of rope, binding them together as a symbol of unity. In others, couples would share honey or wine, believing these sweet tastes would bring happiness to their marriage. Close your eyes and imagine an ancient wedding, a circle of family and friends gathered around. The couple stands hand in hand, their fingers wrapped with a silk ribbon. A priest softly chants prayers to the gods, calling for love, protection, and joy. The scent of flowers fills the air, and the sound of drums marks the rhythm of their hearts. Every gesture, every word was sacred. Love was not just about two people. It was about the entire universe coming together to bless their bond. Across the world, stories were told to explain the power of love. These myths were not just tales, they were lessons about passion, loyalty, and sacrifice. In Greece, there was the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, a musician whose love was so strong, he ventured into the underworld to bring his beloved back to life. His song was said to be so beautiful that even the gods wept. In India, there were stories of Radha and Krishna, a love so pure and divine it was said to transcend the boundaries of time itself. Their love was celebrated not just as romance, but as devotion, as a union between the soul and the divine presence. These stories remind us that love has always been more than just a feeling. It is a force, a sacred power that shapes the world. Love, in its deepest form, was believed to awaken the spirit. Ancient philosophers and poets wrote that love was the bridge between the human and the divine. Imagine sitting under a night sky thousands of years ago, listening to a wise storyteller. He speaks slowly, saying, "To love is to see the face of the gods." People nod quietly, understanding that love was not just about desire, but about kindness, loyalty, and the merging of two souls into one. Some cultures believed that when two lovers were deeply connected, their hearts beat in harmony, not just in this life, but in every life that came after. Love was the thread that wove together all of existence. Now, let me take you on a journey through these ancient stories of love. Let us begin in Egypt, with a love story that has become legend. Imagine the golden sands of the Nile, the warmth of the setting sun painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold. There, in the heart of Alexandria, lived Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt. She was known for her beauty, yes, but also for her wisdom and charm, which could captivate even the most powerful men of Rome. When Mark Antony, a Roman general, came to Egypt, their meeting was like fire meeting fire. Their love was fierce, passionate, and unstoppable. It is said that Cleopatra sailed to meet Antony on a ship with silver oars, its sails drenched in perfume, her presence like a goddess descending from the heavens. Their love defied kingdoms. They shared nights under star-filled skies, whispering dreams of ruling the world together. But theirs was not just a story of romance. It was a story of tragedy. As war and betrayal closed in around them, they chose to leave this world together rather than live without each other. Imagine Antony's last moments, holding Cleopatra's hand, whispering words of love that have been lost to time. Their love, though doomed, became immortal. Even today, when we think of passion that burns beyond reason, we think of Cleopatra and Mark Antony. Now let us journey to ancient India, where love was often described as divine. Among the many tales of love, none is as deeply cherished as the story of Radha and Krishna. Krishna, with his flute, was said to charm every soul he met. But for Radha, his love was something far beyond music or beauty. It was eternal. Their love was not bound by marriage or by the rules of the world. It was a love of the soul, the kind that transcends time and space. Imagine Radha walking through the forest at dusk, the sound of Krishna's flute floating through the trees, guiding her like a whispering breeze. Their moments together were filled with laughter, playfulness, and the deepest connection imaginable. Yet, theirs was not a love meant for worldly possession. It was spiritual, symbolizing the longing of every soul for the divine. Even today, when people speak of pure, selfless love, they remember Radha and Krishna, the love that never ended, even when they were apart. Next, let us travel to ancient Greece, where myths told of love as both joy and challenge. One such tale is that of Eros and Psyche. Psyche was a mortal woman so beautiful that even the goddess Aphrodite grew jealous of her. To humble her, Aphrodite sent her son Eros, the god of love, to make Psyche fall for a monster. But when Eros saw her, he was struck by her beauty, and instead he fell deeply in love with her. Eros visited Psyche each night, unseen, whispering words of love in the darkness. But she was forbidden to look upon his face. One night, driven by curiosity, Psyche lit a lamp while he slept, and in that moment, she saw the truth. Her lover was a god, but a drop of oil from the lamp fell and woke him. Betrayed, Eros vanished. What followed was a journey of trials. Psyche endured impossible challenges, set by Aphrodite herself to prove her love. Through strength, courage, and unshakable devotion, Psyche won back her beloved. In the end, the gods blessed them, making Psyche immortal so that she and Eros could love for eternity. This story reminds us that true love is often tested, but the heart that is steadfast will always find its way. Across the ancient world, countless other stories of love have survived, each with its own beauty. There is the story of Pyramus and Thisbe, lovers from Babylon, who whispered through a crack in the wall separating their families, a story that inspired Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet thousands of years later. There is the tale of Paris and Helen, whose love was said to be so powerful that it sparked the Trojan War, a conflict that changed the course of history. There are the stories of poets like Sappho of ancient Greece, who wrote verses about the sweetness and pain of love, comparing it to fire, to flowers, to the stars themselves. Each of these stories teaches us something: that love can inspire, it can heal, but it can also demand great sacrifice. As we leave these ancient lovers behind, take a moment to reflect on their stories. Though thousands of years have passed, their love still touches us. It is as if their hearts still beat through the ages, whispering to our own. Cleopatra and Antony remind us that love is fierce and fearless. Radha and Krishna teach us that love can be divine and eternal. Eros and Psyche show us that true love is worth every challenge. These stories endure because love is the one language that never changes. It is the thread that connects us all, from the sands of Egypt to the forests of India, from the temples of Greece to the stars above. In ancient times, love wasn't only found in palaces or temples. It blossomed in the rhythm of daily life. It was in the songs sung at sunset, in the way a husband brought home a small gift after a long day, in the way a wife wove patterns into cloth as a silent prayer for her beloved's safety. Tonight, let's step into those quiet moments where love lived softly, simple, yet endlessly beautiful. Close your eyes and imagine walking through a small village thousands of years ago. You hear the crackling of a cooking fire, the laughter of children, the gentle hum of a woman grinding grain. In the corner of one home, a man returns from the fields, his hands rough, his back tired, but in his eyes there is a softness as he looks at his wife. the one who waited for him through every season. He doesn't speak grand words, but he sets down a freshly picked flower by her side. She smiles, and in that smile, there is a love deeper than any poem. For ordinary people, love was not about power or legend. It was about small acts, sharing food, protecting each other, sitting under the stars after a long day, talking in whispers while the world slept. Can you imagine that moment? Just two hearts, living simply, but loving endlessly. Even in ancient times, people found ways to leave behind their words of love. Archaeologists have discovered letters etched into clay tablets, written thousands of years ago. Some were short and sweet, like, "You are my son, and I wait for the day you return." Others were playful, teasing, or filled with longing. A man far from home might carve a small message on a piece of wood, leave it with a traveller, and hope that his beloved would read it by firelight. Imagine someone in ancient Rome writing on papyrus, their words trembling as they confess their feelings, knowing that this letter might be the only way their love could reach across the miles. There is something timeless in this, the desire to put love into words, even when the world feels too vast or too silent. Music was another language of love. In almost every culture, there were songs sung at night, songs of longing and hope. Picture a young shepherd in ancient Greece, sitting on a hillside with his lyre, strumming a soft tune as the sun sets. His song drifts through the air, a quiet message to the girl who lives across the valley. Or imagine a young woman in ancient China, writing a poem on silk, her ink flowing like the river, capturing the way her heart races when she thinks of someone she loves. One ancient poem from Egypt says, "When I see you, my heart leaps like a fish in the water. My soul dances, and my breath is sweeter than honey." Even thousands of years ago, people found ways to say the same things we say today. I miss you, I need you, I love you. Love, in its simplest form, often came in the shape of a gift, not grand or expensive, but filled with meaning. A Roman soldier might give his lover a small bronze ring, not because it was valuable, but because it carried the warmth of his hand. In Japan, lovers exchanged folded paper tokens, delicate and fragile, like their feelings. In the Middle East, lovers sometimes tied knots in a ribbon as a way of silently saying, "My heart is tied to yours." Close your eyes and imagine this. A woman weaving a scarf for her beloved. Each thread a silent promise, each color chosen with care. When he wears it, even miles away, it is as though her love wraps around him, protecting him from the cold. These simple tokens remind us that love is not measured by its cost, but by the thought, the care, the intention behind it. In the daily life of ancient times, love often looked like care. A wife might grind extra grain to prepare her husband's favorite bread. A husband might rise early to fetch water so his family could rest a little longer. At night, families would gather around the fire, and love would live in the stories told, in the laughter shared, in the silent moments when no words were needed. Imagine an evening thousands of years ago. The stars are shining above, the world is quiet, and a couple sits together, watching the fire burn low. They don't need to say, "I love you." Their closeness says it all. Sometimes love is not in the grand gestures, but in the quiet constancy of someone who stays. Now, let us wander through the ancient world and explore these eternal symbols of love. The ring is one of the oldest and most powerful symbols of love. A simple circle, with no beginning and no end. It represents eternity, the promise that love will last forever. In ancient Egypt, lovers exchanged rings made of braided reeds or leather. They believed the ring finger held a vein that ran directly to the heart, the vein of love. Imagine a young man, thousands of years ago, carefully twisting a strand of papyrus into a small circle, placing it gently on his beloved's hand. No words were needed. That circle said everything. You are mine, and I am yours, for all time. Later, the Romans adopted this tradition, creating rings of bronze or gold. These rings were not only symbols of marriage, but also of loyalty and deep affection. Even today, when we slip a ring onto someone's finger, we are echoing this ancient promise. Another symbol of love that has traveled through time is the knot. In many cultures, tying a knot was a way of binding two lives together. In ancient China, lovers tied red threads as a symbol of fate. It was said that an invisible red thread connected the hearts of two people destined to meet. No matter the distance, no matter the time, the thread would always bring them together. In Celtic traditions, couples tied literal knots during their wedding ceremonies, weaving strands of cloth or rope around their hands to show that their lives were now intertwined. Close your eyes and picture this. a soft ribbon, tied gently by two hands. It is a simple gesture, but it carries a powerful meaning. We are connected. We are one. Nature has always spoken the language of love. Flowers, in particular, have carried messages when words could not. The ancient Greeks believed roses were sacred to Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and would place them on altars as a way of asking for her blessing. In Egypt, lotus flowers symbolized rebirth and eternal devotion, often gifted between lovers. Imagine an ancient market, filled with the scent of blooming flowers. A young man selects a single white lotus, offering it to the woman he loves. She doesn't need to ask why. She knows it means purity, hope, and forever. Even today, when we give roses or lilies, we are continuing this ancient language of the heart. Art, too, has always been a canvas for love. Thousands of years ago, lovers carved their initials into stones or trees, just as people do today. In ancient Rome, love graffiti has been found on the walls of Pompeii, short notes like, "I love her who loves me," etched for eternity. Imagine a potter in ancient Greece painting a vase. He carefully draws two lovers holding hands, their figures surrounded by delicate patterns. This vase will carry their story for centuries, long after their voices are gone. Art made love eternal. Whether in a carving, a painting, or even a simple scratch on a stone wall, love was always seeking to leave its mark. Beyond rings, flowers, and carvings, love was often expressed through music and small tokens. A lover might create a flute song that only one person would recognize, or carry a small carved amulet given by someone dear. In some cultures, lovers exchanged pieces of jewelry shaped like hearts, stars, or moons, symbols of their feelings that they could keep close, even when far apart. Imagine this moment. A young woman in ancient Mesopotamia, threading a small clay bead onto a cord, pressing a pattern into it with her fingertip. She gives it to the man she loves, knowing that whenever he touches it, he will think of her. These tokens, though simple, carried the weight of unspoken love. The symbols of love are timeless because love itself is timeless. The same circle that was exchanged in an Egyptian village thousands of years ago is the one we still place on fingers today. The same red thread imagined by ancient poets still ties hearts together across oceans and centuries. Here we are, dear listener, at the final chapter of our journey. We have walked together through the dawn of love, where early humans expressed their hearts through simple gestures. We have seen love worshipped as divine, celebrated in temples, and whispered in ancient prayers. We have listened to the great legends Cleopatra and Antony, Radha and Krishna, Eros and Psyche, and we have stepped into the daily lives of ordinary people, where love lived quietly in small acts of care. And then we traced the symbols, rings, knots, flowers, the silent language of love that still speaks to us today. Now, let us take a moment to reflect. What is love? What has it meant across time? And what does it still mean for us, here and now? Love is a thread that has never broken. It runs through every story, every culture, every era. Whether it was carved into stone, written on papyrus, or sung beneath the stars, the feeling is the same, that pull between two souls, that warmth that makes life brighter. Imagine standing on a mountaintop today, with the wind brushing your face. Somewhere, far away in time, another person stood in the same place, centuries ago, feeling the same thing, thinking of someone they love, hoping for their safe return. The world changes. Empires rise and fall. But love remains the same. It is the one constant, the one truth that binds all of humanity together. The ancients taught us that love is not always grand. Sometimes it's quiet and steady. It's in the gift of a simple flower, the promise of a knot, the ring that circles the finger like a silent oath. They showed us that love is both earthly and divine, that it can be fierce like Cleopatra and Antony's fire, or spiritual like Radha and Krishna's devotion. They taught us that love requires courage, as Psyche's trials remind us, and that it is worth fighting for, worth waiting for, worth believing in, no matter the cost. If you close your eyes, you can almost hear their whispers, voices from thousands of years ago saying, "Love as we loved, hold it dear, protect it, cherish it." Perhaps love is not just a feeling. Perhaps it is a presence. Something that has always existed, moving quietly through time like a river. We step into it when we hold someone's hand, when we listen, when we care deeply. Imagine love as a light, a warm, glowing light that shines from one heart to another across centuries. The same light that burned in an ancient Egyptian poet's words, the same light that inspired Greek myths, still burns in us today. Every time we say "I love you," we are adding to that light, keeping it alive for future generations. Take a deep breath. In and out. Picture yourself sitting under a night sky. The stars above you are the same stars that ancient lovers gazed at thousands of years ago. Somewhere beneath this same sky, someone once carved a heart into a tree, sang a song for their beloved, or tied a ribbon as a silent promise. Think of someone you love. Feel the warmth that rises in your heart when you think of them. That feeling, that quiet, powerful energy, is the same feeling that has moved through every love story ever told. It is bigger than time, bigger than life. For a moment, just breathe and let that truth wash over you. Love connects us. Love is what makes us human. Love is eternal. The meaning of love in ancient times was no different from what it is today. It was about connection, trust, and the beauty of giving your heart to another. The forms may change. Letters become texts, songs become playlists, rings become digital promises, but the essence remains unchanged. Love is the same now as it was when the first humans gathered by firelight, when Cleopatra whispered to Antony, when Radha danced with Krishna, when Psyche held Eros's hand. Now, we begin another journey, a journey into the ancient past, where the bond of marriage was more than just a contract or ceremony. It was something sacred, something divine. For thousands of years, marriage was not merely about two people, it was about the merging of spirits, the weaving of families, and the blessing of higher powers. But how did it all begin? Why did humans start seeing marriage as a sacred bond? Let us step back beyond the pages of history, into the time when everything was simpler, when love, survival, and spirituality were one. Imagine the world tens of thousands of years ago. There are no cities, no temples, no kings, just tribes moving with the seasons, living close to the earth. Even then, people felt the pull of companionship. A man and woman might share food, protect each other, and raise children together. But over time, this bond became something greater. It wasn't just about survival, it was about belonging. It was about saying, we are one. In the flickering light of a fire, two people might exchange simple promises, not spoken in grand words but shown through actions, sharing the last piece of meat, guarding each other in the night, holding hands as they looked at the stars. These early unions were the seeds of marriage, a promise not just between two hearts but between their spirits, their families, and the unseen world around them. In many early cultures, people believed that every act of life was guided by the spirits of nature, the wind, the water, the fire, the stars. Marriage, they thought, was too important to be left to chance. It had to be blessed by the spirits. A union without blessing was considered fragile, as if the bond could be broken by a single gust of wind. So couples stood before the elders, or under the open sky, to ask for blessings. They called upon the sun for warmth, the earth for stability, and the ancestors for guidance. Can you picture this? A circle of people, the fire glowing in the center, as a couple stands hand in hand. The shaman raises a feather to the sky and whispers words that have been spoken for generations. Let your hearts be tied, let your spirits walk as one. Marriage was not just about two people, it was a joining of families, a weaving together of bloodlines and histories. To marry was to say, we are stronger together, we will build, we will grow, and we will protect each other. But beyond the practical, there was a sense of mystery to it. People believed that when two souls came together, they created something greater than themselves, a new fire, a new energy. Some ancient tribes believed that the spirit of love itself was a living force, a kind of divine being that only visited those who truly cared for each other. To marry was to welcome this spirit into their lives, to invite it to stay forever. And so, marriage was never just a human arrangement. It was a spiritual event, a sacred bond made with the blessing of the universe. Even in the simplest of societies, marriage carried rituals. In some places, couples exchanged small tokens, a carved piece of wood, a painted stone, or a braid of grass, symbols of their unity. In other tribes, the couple would walk together through smoke or water, cleansing themselves before joining their lives. Some placed their hands on the earth, promising to care for each other just as the earth cared for them. Imagine this scene, the sound of drums in the distance, the scent of burning herbs, the laughter of family members gathered in a circle. The couple stands in the center, hearts beating as one, ready to step into a new life together. Every action was meaningful. Every gesture was a prayer. Long before written vows, people made promises in the simplest ways. A man might say to his wife, "I will hunt for you, I will keep you warm, I will never let you go hungry." A woman might reply, I will make your home a place of peace. I will carry your children. I will share your burdens. These were not just promises of duty. They were promises of the soul. Over time, these vows became sacred words, spoken before families and elders, and believed to be heard by the gods themselves. To break such a vow was to break a spiritual bond, something that could bring misfortune or sadness. That is why marriage was held with such deep respect. It was not just about love or family, but about harmony with the unseen world. In those early days, love and marriage were deeply connected to the earth, to the ancestors, and to the divine forces that people felt all around them. Now we step into the world of great ancient civilizations, the places where marriage was not only a personal vow, but also a divine ceremony, blessed by gods and recorded in the traditions of entire nations. Let us begin in Egypt, the land of golden sands and timeless pyramids. To the ancient Egyptians, marriage was not just a social arrangement, it was part of the divine order. They believed that love and harmony in marriage were gifts from the gods. The goddess Hathor, often depicted with a crown of horns and a sun disk, was the protector of love, joy, and marriage. Couples prayed to her for happiness and fertility. Imagine a marriage ceremony by the Nile. The bride, dressed in white linen, wears jewelry made of lapis lazuli and turquoise, stones believed to bring blessings. The groom places a necklace around her neck, symbolizing protection. There were no formal priests for marriage in Egypt. The union itself was seen as sacred when the families gathered and the couple exchanged gifts. Yet they often celebrated with feasts, music, and the sharing of bread and beer, acts that symbolized unity and abundance. Even in death, Egyptians believed that a husband and wife would reunite in the afterlife. On tomb walls, you will find carvings of couples holding hands, standing together for eternity, their love immortalized in stone. From the Nile, let us move to the land between the rivers, Mesopotamia. Here, marriage was both sacred and deeply connected to the gods. In the Sumerian culture, marriage was believed to reflect the sacred union of Inanna, the goddess of love and fertility, and Dumuzi, her divine consort. Their story of love and sacrifice was celebrated in rituals that blessed marriages with fertility and abundance. The wedding ceremony often took place in a temple, where a priest or priestess would offer prayers to the gods. A feast would follow, with bread, dates, and honey, food symbolizing sweetness and prosperity. Imagine the sound of a harp playing softly, while the bride and groom hold hands beneath a canopy. Their families gather, offering gifts of grain and oil, believing these gifts would ensure the couple's happiness. For Mesopotamians, marriage was not just a bond between two people, it was a contract of both heart and spirit, one that honored the gods as much as it united families. Now, let us journey to Greece, where marriage was intertwined with mythology and sacred tradition. The Greeks saw marriage as a sacred bond overseen by Hera, the queen of the gods and the goddess of marriage. Before the ceremony, the bride would make offerings to Hera, asking for blessings of love and harmony. Weddings in ancient Greece often lasted several days. On the night before, the bride would bathe in holy water, symbolizing purity and renewal. The day of the wedding began with feasts, dancing and singing. One of the most beautiful customs was the sharing of bread and wine, a symbol of two lives becoming one. As the bride left her family's home, she was often escorted by torchlight, with friends and relatives singing songs to guide her to her new life. Imagine this moment, the soft glow of torches, the hum of ancient lyres, the bride in a flowing robe of white, her hair adorned with flowers, walking hand in hand with the man who would now be her partner, her equal, her companion. In ancient India, marriage was one of the most sacred of all unions, a spiritual journey, not just a social contract. It was considered a samskara, a holy rite of passage that connected not just two people but two souls across lifetimes. The fire god, Agni, was the witness of every marriage. Couples would walk around a sacred fire 7 times, each step a vow to love, to protect, to share, to grow, to respect, to care, and to remain united forever. Imagine the warm glow of the sacred fire, the bride wearing red, the color of life and energy, as the groom ties a sacred thread around her neck, symbolizing eternal commitment. The chanting of mantras, the fragrance of flowers and sandalwood, the sound of bells, all creating an atmosphere of divine blessing. In Indian tradition, marriage was seen as a union not just of two individuals, but of two families, two destinies, and two spiritual paths becoming one. Across these civilizations, marriage was always more than a partnership. It was a mirror of the divine, the love of gods, the harmony of nature, the cycle of life itself. When a couple married, they were believed to be creating a microcosm of the universe, a small, sacred world built on love, respect, and trust. Every feast, every song, every prayer was a reminder that their bond was not just for themselves, but for all who came after them. Now, let us take a deeper step. Beyond the music, the flowers, and the feasts, there is something at the heart of marriage that is both powerful and eternal: the vow. A vow is not just a promise spoken aloud, it is a sacred contract. In ancient times, these vows were believed to be heard by the gods, etched into the fabric of the universe, binding two souls not only in this life but beyond. Let us explore this spiritual contract, the words, the symbols, and the deep meaning behind them. In ancient cultures, words were not taken lightly. People believed that words carried a spiritual force, that when spoken with intention, they could shape reality. When a bride and groom stood before their families and elders, every word they spoke was sacred. To say, "I am yours," was to give a part of one's soul. To say, "I will protect you," was to call upon the universe to bear witness. In Egypt, couples might pledge their loyalty by saying, "You are my chosen one, the one who shares my bread and my heart." In Greece, vows often invoked the gods. "By Hera and by Zeus, I promise to honor and love you." The vows were not long or poetic. They were simple, but filled with meaning, like seeds planted into the soil of time, and once spoken, they were believed to be unbreakable. Why did the ancients see marriage as a contract of the soul? Because they believed love was more than emotion. It was destiny, fate, and divine design. When two people married, they were not just choosing each other, they were fulfilling something greater, a pattern written by the gods or the stars. The vows were a kind of agreement not only with each other, but with the divine. To break a vow was to disrupt the harmony of the cosmos. That is why vows were often spoken beside sacred elements, fire, water, or stone, forces that were eternal and could hold the promise within them. Imagine standing with your beloved under a vast, starry sky, knowing that every word you speak is carried to the heavens where the gods are listening. Alongside the words, ancient marriages often included symbols that sealed the promise. Rings, in Egypt and later in Rome. A ring, a circle with no end, represented an eternal bond. It was a reminder that marriage was not just for a moment, but for life and beyond. Knots. In Celtic and Hindu traditions, couples tied knots or threads around their hands, symbolizing that their lives were now woven together. The phrase "tying the knot" that we still use today comes from this ancient practice. Shared meals, to share bread, wine, or honey, was to say, "We will share everything, our joys, our burdens, our days." Each of these symbols carried energy. They were not just gestures but silent vows, physical reminders of the promises made. In the ancient world, marriage was never just between two people. It was always witnessed, not only by family and friends, but by gods, spirits, and ancestors. In India, couples walked around a sacred fire because fire was seen as a living witness, a messenger carrying their vows to the divine. In Greece, couples married under the watch of Hera's priestesses, who recorded the union as a gift to the goddess. Imagine this: a soft breeze moving through the trees, the sound of water in the distance, the family gathered in a circle. A wise elder steps forward and says, "These vows are not just yours, they belong to all of us, and to the heavens above." To marry was not only to find love, but to enter into something larger, a web of relationships and blessings that touched all aspects of life. The ancients believed that once a vow was spoken, it tied the souls of the couple together. They became each other's reflection, each other's strength. In some cultures, they believed the souls of husband and wife became one spirit that would continue even after death. Tombs, temples, and poems across the ancient world speak of this idea that love and marriage outlast time. Close your eyes and picture two hands joining. Feel that connection. Warm, steady, unbreakable. This is what the ancients felt when they spoke their vows. A sense that they were stepping into something eternal. Marriage in ancient times was a sacred contract because it bound not only two hearts but two destinies. It was an act of trust, of courage, and of faith in the unseen. We have explored the origins of marriage and the sacred vows that bound hearts and souls. But in ancient times, a marriage was more than just a personal promise. It was a spiritual event that needed blessings and protection. Marriage ceremonies were designed to invite good fortune, to honor the gods, and to shield the couple from any ill will or dark forces that might disrupt their new life together. Tonight, we will wander through these ancient rituals, from fire blessings to sacred charms, and witnessed the beauty of how love was guarded like a treasure. In early cultures, people believed that the moment of marriage was powerful but also delicate. When two souls joined together, they created a bright light, and any bright light might attract both blessings and challenges. To protect the couple, families and priests performed rituals that acted like a spiritual shield. They used fire to cleanse negative energy, water to bring purity, and music to drive away anything harmful. Imagine this: a young couple stands before a circle of elders, the flames of a sacred fire dancing in the night. The air is filled with the scent of burning herbs, sage, cedar, or sweet grass, believed to carry prayers to the heavens. As the smoke rises, it is said to sweep away all shadows, leaving only love and hope behind. Fire has always been a symbol of life, warmth, and transformation. In ancient India, fire was at the very heart of the wedding ceremony. Couples walked around the sacred flame, each circle representing a vow to support each other, to nurture their family, to live in harmony with the universe. In some Mediterranean cultures, torches were lit during wedding feasts to honor the goddess Hestia, protector of the hearth. Fire was believed to bring strength and longevity to the marriage. Can you picture it? A glowing fire surrounded by flowers, the bride and groom stepping gently around it, their hands tied with silk threads. Each step is slow, deliberate, like a prayer set to motion. The fire flickers softly, as if it too is blessing their union. Where fire brought passion and strength, water brought purity and renewal. In ancient Greece, brides often bathed in holy water from sacred springs before the wedding. This was not just a bath, it was a spiritual cleansing, a way to begin the marriage free from past burdens. In Egypt, water from the Nile was sprinkled on the couple, symbolizing life and fertility. Some Native American tribes used bowls of water during ceremonies, asking the spirits of rivers and rain to bring abundance and harmony. Imagine the gentle sound of water trickling into a bowl, the bride dipping her hands, her heart steady as she prays for a life as flowing and endless as the rivers. Many cultures used charms to guard the marriage from harm. In Mesopotamia, couples wore amulets engraved with symbols of love and protection, often invoking the goddess Inanna. In Celtic lands, brides carried sprigs of ivy or rosemary, plants believed to bring loyalty and happiness. In Rome, people tied protective knots in ribbons around the bride's waist or hands. These knots were not only symbols of unity, but also protective charms, ensuring that no ill spirit could untie the bond. Picture a small pouch tied to a bride's dress, filled with herbs like lavender and sage, tiny stones blessed by elders, and perhaps a little carving of a heart or star, all placed there with one quiet wish: may their love be protected always. Protection also came through joy. It was believed that when a community gathered with laughter, music, and dancing, they created an energy so bright that no shadow could linger. In ancient Greece, wedding songs known as hymenaios were sung in honor of Hymen, the god of marriage. These songs were not just for entertainment, they were blessings set to music. In African traditions, drums and singing would fill the air, calling upon ancestors to watch over the couple. The feast itself, the sharing of food, was an offering of gratitude, a way of saying, we begin our life together with abundance, and we wish abundance for all. Imagine the sound of flutes and drums, people laughing and clapping, the night alive with celebration. That joy itself was a blessing. Let us remember the care with which the ancients treated love. They knew that marriage was a precious flame, and they surrounded it with rituals of fire, water, song, and blessing, so that it would burn brightly for years to come. We have explored the personal side of marriage, the vows, the symbols, and the blessings that guard a union. But in ancient times, marriage was never just about two people. It was a community event, a celebration that bound families, tribes, and even entire nations. A wedding was more than a private promise. It was a moment of unity for everyone involved, a way to weave together relationships, strengthen alliances, and honor the past and future all at once. Now, let us step into these ancient gatherings, where the air was alive with music, laughter, and sacred meaning. In the ancient world, the marriage of two people often meant the joining of families, sometimes even the merging of tribes or kingdoms. For ordinary people, a wedding ensured that two families would support each other in times of need. It was an agreement that extended far beyond the bride and groom. When a couple married, the entire village celebrated, for it meant new connections, new strength, and new hope. In royal courts, marriage was a way to create peace between nations. Kings and queens would marry not just for love, but to unite kingdoms under shared banners. And yet even these political unions were filled with ritual, song, and sacred blessings, because marriage was always seen as something greater than politics. Imagine a town square thousands of years ago. People gather, dressed in their finest robes. A young couple stands in the center, and all around them neighbors and family members cheer and bless them. It is not just their day, it belongs to everyone. In ancient times, elders played a central role in marriage ceremonies. They were the keepers of wisdom, the voices of the ancestors, and their blessing was considered essential. Before the vows were exchanged, the bride and groom might kneel before their parents or grandparents, receiving words of guidance. These blessings often carried deep meaning, filled with hopes for happiness, health, and many generations to come. Picture a grandmother placing her hand gently on the bride's head, whispering, "May your heart be strong, may your home be full of light." Or a father giving his son a simple token, perhaps a carved piece of wood, saying, "Carry this with you, and remember that love is built with patience." The community did not just witness a marriage, it nurtured it. Weddings were moments of shared joy. In villages and towns, everyone participated in some way by bringing food, by singing, by dancing, or by helping with the preparations. The feast was not only for the couple, it was a way to give thanks to the gods for the blessing of love, and to share abundance with the entire community. Tables would be filled with bread, fruit, honey, and wine. Children would play as the elders told stories of love and family. Some cultures believed that the more people who blessed the couple, the stronger their union would be. Guests would speak wishes aloud, each one like a small prayer, weaving an invisible web of protection around the new marriage. Imagine this scene, dozens of voices calling out, "May your love be long, may your children be strong, may your home always be warm." These words, carried on the wind, became part of the couple's life. In many ancient societies, a wedding was not just a day, it was a festival. In Greece, wedding celebrations often lasted 3 days, filled with music, dancing, and processions through the streets. In India, marriages were celebrated over several days with different ceremonies, each one inviting blessings from family, friends, and gods. In African villages, drums and singing could last all night, with neighbors joining in long dances to honor the couple's union. Imagine standing at one of these celebrations, the sound of flutes and drums filling the night air, the smell of freshly cooked food, and the joy of people coming together to celebrate not only the love of two souls, but the strength of the entire community. Marriage was also seen as a way to honor the ancestors and prepare for the future. When a couple joined their lives, they were seen as the next link in a long chain of generations. Offerings were often made to the spirits of ancestors. A cup of wine poured on the ground, a candle lit at an altar, a prayer whispered into the wind, asking for guidance and protection for the newlyweds. It was also a way to dream of the future. A marriage meant new children, new stories, new life. Communities saw weddings as a reminder that life was always moving forward, always renewing itself. Picture a small fire burning outside a home. The elders gathered around it, telling stories of their own weddings, stories of love, challenges, and triumphs, as the young couple listens, ready to add their own chapter. The blessings of elders, the laughter of neighbors, the songs and feasts, all of these were part of the sacred act of weaving love into the fabric of community. We began in the dawn of time, where marriage was born out of love, trust, and survival. We walked through the great civilizations, Egypt, Greece, India, Mesopotamia, and saw how marriage was blessed by gods and celebrated with sacred rituals. We explored vows, charms, songs, and feasts. Tonight, we step into reflection. We ask, why has marriage endured? Why, across thousands of years, do we still see it as something sacred, something eternal? Let us take these last moments to look back and forward at the timelessness of this sacred bond. Marriage is one of humanity's oldest traditions. It is older than temples, older than written language. Even before history began, people found meaning in standing together and promising, "I will be with you, I will care for you." Think of it as a thread, a golden thread that stretches across centuries. It runs through the love songs of ancient Egypt, the myths of Greece, the sacred fires of India, and the quiet prayers of a small village somewhere in the mountains. And that same thread continues today. Every time a couple holds hands and promises to face the world together, they are joining a tradition as old as humanity itself. Modern weddings may look different. The rings are made of gold, the music comes from speakers, the ceremonies might last an hour instead of days, but at the heart of it, the meaning is unchanged. When two people speak their vows, it is not just about legality or tradition. It is about standing before family, friends, and the universe and saying, "My heart is yours, my life is yours, we are one." This is the same sacred contract that our ancestors believed in. The words might be softer now, but the power behind them is the same. Many of the symbols we use today come directly from the ancient world. The wedding ring, with its endless circle, still represents eternity. The idea of walking down an aisle echoes ancient processions. The use of flowers, feasts, and music, all of these are echoes of traditions that began thousands of years ago. Even the phrase "tying the knot" is a reminder of the old rituals where couples' hands were bound together to symbolize unity. Close your eyes for a moment and think of a modern wedding you've seen. Beneath the white dresses and formal suits, there is something familiar, something ancient. It's as if the spirits of all those past weddings are still there, whispering blessings. Marriage is not just about the present moment. It is about continuity. It connects past, present, and future. When a couple marries, they are honoring the generations that came before. All the love stories, all the struggles, all the hopes that led to this moment. And at the same time, they are creating a foundation for the future, for children, families, and stories yet to be written. This is why marriage feels sacred. It is bigger than two people. It is a bridge between what was and what will be. The ancients believed that marriage created a new spirit, a kind of shared soul that lived beyond time. Perhaps that is still true. Take a deep breath in and out. Imagine standing under a sky full of stars. These are the same stars that lovers in ancient Egypt once looked at. The same stars that shone on Greek weddings, Indian rituals, and Celtic handfastings. Somewhere, thousands of years ago, someone stood just like you, holding the hand of the one they loved, whispering vows under this same sky. And now, here you are, connected to them by something invisible but powerful. The eternal human desire to love, to promise, to share life. Feel that connection. Feel that thread. The story of marriage is not just about history, it is about us. It is about every heart that has ever said, "You are my home." From the firelit ceremonies of ancient tribes to the weddings of today, the essence remains the same. Marriage is a sacred bond, a promise of two souls to walk through time together. Close your eyes and let's step back in time, far before modern love letters or candlelit dinners, before jewelry or grand weddings. In the beginning, courtship was not about luxury or wealth. It was about connection, a quiet dance of glances, gestures, and small acts of kindness. It was how humans told each other, "I see you, I choose you." Courtship is one of humanity's oldest languages, older than words. It is the look that lingers a moment too long, the offering of food from a fresh hunt, the song hummed softly by the fire. Imagine a world tens of thousands of years ago. There are no towns or kingdoms, just small groups of people living close to nature. In those days, love and survival were deeply intertwined. To show affection was often to show care. A hunter might give the best cut of meat to someone he admired. A woman might weave a special cord or bring sweet berries to someone she cared for. Courtship was subtle. It was a gesture, a hand extended across a fire, a smile shared under a starlit sky. Love was expressed through action, through sharing, through being present. Picture two people walking beside a river, collecting stones and shells. One of them finds a small, smooth stone, carefully shaped by the water. They hold it out and smile. No words are needed. The gift itself speaks. "I thought of you." In many early societies, courtship was not rushed. It was a slow process, like a season of growth. To court someone was to pay attention to them, to notice their needs, to listen to their stories, to bring small offerings. A young man might leave small tokens, a feather, a wildflower, a carved piece of wood near the place where a young woman worked, hoping she would recognize his silent affection. Imagine how powerful that must have felt, to receive something so simple, yet so meaningful. The smallest gift became a treasure, because it was a piece of someone's heart. Before there were love letters, there were love signs. In some cultures, a songbird feather meant, "I want to know you." A red stone meant, "I am thinking of you." A bundle of herbs might say, "I wish you peace and happiness." Courtship was often a secret conversation, one that others might not even notice. A small object left at someone's door, or a song hummed while passing by, could hold layers of meaning. Can you feel how beautiful this is? Love was expressed through creativity, through quiet acts that needed no explanation. Just as marriage was considered sacred, So too was the act of courtship. It was not just about romance. It was about showing that one was worthy of trust, of building a life together. In many cultures, courtship rituals were tied to nature. Couples might walk together under the moonlight, believing that the moon blessed their union. They might leave small offerings to the spirits of the land, a flower placed by a tree, a whispered wish to the wind, asking for guidance in love. Imagine standing in a meadow as the sun sets, watching someone you care for, feeling the unspoken promise between you, we are walking towards something bigger than ourselves. Even in the earliest times, humans told stories of love through songs, dances, and shared tales by the fire. A young man might sing a simple melody at night, knowing the one he loved could hear his voice in the distance. A woman might respond by weaving patterns into her clothing, symbols that spoke of longing and hope. These were not just gestures, they were rituals. Each song, each story, each carefully chosen gift was like a spell, carrying the energy of love and intention. Courtship is not about the size of the gesture, but the meaning behind it. The ancients knew that love is built in small, thoughtful steps, like stones carefully laid on a path that leads two people to each other. Up next, we will explore love letters and ancient poetry, how the first written words of love came to life and how lovers used poetry to speak to the soul. Imagine a time when there were no phones, no instant messages, no emails. The only way to send a piece of your heart was to carve it into words, to let ink or charcoal carry your feelings across space and time. Love letters and poetry have always been more than mere words. They are living fragments of the soul, carrying longing, devotion, and dreams. In this chapter, we will wander through the ancient world, from Egypt to Mesopotamia, from China to Rome, and discover how lovers used poetry and letters to speak the language of the heart. The oldest known love poems come from ancient Sumer, more than 4,000 years ago. These were written on clay tablets in cuneiform script, but despite their age, their words still feel alive today. One famous poem reads, "Bridegroom, dear to my heart, goodly is your beauty, honey sweet, lion, dear to my heart." Can you feel how personal and intimate these words are? Imagine someone carefully carving them into clay, knowing that their beloved might one day hold that tablet and read each line like a whispered prayer. In ancient Egypt, love was often compared to sweetness and light. Couples wrote on papyrus scrolls, sending verses filled with metaphors of nature, lilies, rivers, and the warmth of the sun. One love poem from the New Kingdom era says, "Your love, dear man, is as lovely to me, as sweet soothing oil to the limbs of the weary. It is like the smell of incense to one who is at prayer." Imagine a young woman sitting near the Nile, dipping a reed pen into ink, her heart pounding as she writes these words. She rolls the scroll carefully and sends it with a trusted messenger, a letter that carries not just words but her very soul. Why were love letters and poems so powerful? Because they were lasting. Words spoken might be forgotten, but words written down lived forever. A poem could be held, read again and again, cherished as a token of love. In many cultures, lovers kept each other's letters in special places, tucked under pillows, hidden in chests, or carried in small pouches close to the heart. Imagine receiving a letter that says simply, "You are the song I wake to, the dream I sleep in." Those words become a talisman, a silent companion through every season. In Greece and Rome, poetry was one of the highest forms of courtship. The famous poet Sappho wrote verses to express desire and admiration. "Someone, I tell you, will remember us, even in another time." Roman lovers often sent short poems etched on wax tablets or written on papyrus, filled with longing. For them, poetry was not just art, it was a key to the heart. In China, during the Han Dynasty, lovers exchanged poems written on silk or thin bamboo strips. These poems often spoke of longing, of waiting by moonlight, of missing someone who was far away. Each culture found its own rhythm, its own way to let love flow through words. Ancient love poems were full of symbols. Flowers often represented beauty and purity. The moon symbolized longing. Rivers represented the flow of emotions, while mountains symbolized obstacles between lovers. These symbols gave poetry a deeper magic. A single line could hold an entire story, like, "I wait for you, as the moon waits for the sun." Imagine someone reading these lines by candlelight, their heart stirred by every metaphor, every image. It wasn't just poetry, it was a spell, a whisper to the soul. Even today, When we send a text or write a message that says "I miss you," we are continuing the same tradition that began thousands of years ago. Now we will explore songs and serenades, how music, voice and melody became one of the most powerful ways to court someone's heart. Long before written letters or poetry, music was the purest language of love. A single note sung softly could say what words could not. A melody could linger in the heart long after it faded in the air. Music is as old as humanity itself. Our ancestors sang to the stars, to the rivers, to the spirits of the land, and of course to each other. In early tribes, love songs were simple. Hums, chants, or melodies created with handmade flutes or drums. A lover might sit under a tree, singing a tune that only one person would understand. Imagine a young man carving a wooden flute, then playing it softly as dusk falls, the notes drifting through the village, reaching the ears of the one he loves. She hears the song and knows, this is for me. Music, even then, was not just sound. It was emotion made audible. The image of a lover singing under a window is ancient and universal. In many cultures, young men would sing outside the homes of the women they adored, sometimes alone, sometimes with friends, often accompanied by simple instruments. In medieval Europe, the tradition of the troubadour was born, wandering musicians who sang songs of love and longing. Their serenades were not just performances, but heartfelt confessions. Picture this: a narrow street, lit by moonlight. A young man stands below a balcony, holding a lute. He begins to sing, his voice soft, trembling slightly with emotion. The girl above listens, her heart beating fast, the song weaving a spell between them. In ancient Egypt, love songs were often accompanied by harps or lyres. They compared the beloved to golden lotus flowers, to the sweetness of honey, to the radiance of the sun. The Greeks believed that music was divine, a gift from the gods. Lovers would compose songs to honor their beloveds, sometimes singing at festivals or private gatherings. In Africa, courtship songs were, and still are, an important tradition. Young men and women would sing call and response songs, expressing affection and admiration in a playful rhythmic dance of words and melodies. Across every land, music spoke the same language: love. Why is singing so powerful in courtship? Because the voice carries something deeper than words. A voice can tremble with emotion, rise with passion, or fall soft with tenderness. A song lets the heart speak directly. Even a simple melody, a few notes repeated with care, can carry more meaning than 1,000 spoken words. Imagine hearing someone sing just for you, under the stars. Each note feels like it's reaching out, touching your heart. The ancients understood this, and that is why songs were often considered the most sincere form of love. Different cultures developed instruments, especially for romantic songs. The lute and lyre in Greece and Rome, often played during serenades. The bamboo flute in China, whose soft notes were compared to whispers of love. The kora and drums in Africa, creating rhythms that made people dance and smile. The sitar and veena in India, where music was seen as both romantic and divine. These instruments were not just tools, they were companions to the heart. A lover might spend weeks perfecting a melody before daring to play it for the one they loved. Songs and serenades are timeless. From the hums of ancient tribes to the love ballads we hear today, music remains one of the purest forms of courtship. Up next, we will explore symbolic gifts and tokens of love, the objects and treasures that lovers exchange to express feelings that words and songs could not fully capture. Think of a gift you've received from someone you love. Maybe a ring, a letter, or even something small like a pressed flower. Now imagine the same gesture thousands of years ago, when lovers exchanged tokens not as material possessions, but as pieces of their hearts. A symbolic gift was never just an object. It was a message. A single flower, a carved charm, or a painted shell, spoke louder than words. It said, "I have thought of you. I have made this for you. I give you a part of myself." Let's journey through the history of these tokens of love, from wildflowers left at doorsteps to hand-carved treasures passed down through generations. In early human societies, gifts were often made of natural materials: feathers, shells, stones, or woven grass. These were not chosen for luxury, but for meaning. Imagine a young man picking a smooth stone from a river, carving a simple heart into its surface, and leaving it where the one he loves would find it. She would hold it in her hand and feel the effort, the thought, the quiet devotion behind it. A gift like this wasn't about its value. It was about the story it told. Flowers have always carried messages of love. In ancient Greece, roses were sacred to Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and giving a rose meant, "You are my heart's desire." In Egypt, lotus flowers were seen as symbols of rebirth and purity, often gifted during courtship. In China, peonies and orchids represented beauty and devotion. Imagine a young lover picking wildflowers at dawn, carefully choosing each color and shape, knowing that each petal would speak a word his lips could not. Even today, a single flower can still carry a message that words cannot express. Handmade gifts were powerful because they held the time and effort of the giver. In Celtic traditions, young men carved small wooden spoons with intricate patterns known as love spoons to give to the women they admired. In Africa, beads were often strung together in patterns that told stories of love and loyalty. In Japan, folded paper cranes, each made with care, were tokens of patience and devotion. Imagine receiving a hand-carved pendant, its surface marked with hours of quiet work. It is not just wood or stone, it is a piece of someone's heart, given freely. As societies advanced, lovers began to gift jewelry, rings, bracelets or pendants, not for wealth but for their symbolism. A ring, with no beginning or end, became a symbol of eternity. In Rome, iron rings were given as a sign of lasting commitment. In India, anklets and bangles were considered tokens of affection and protection. In Egypt, gold jewelry shaped like the eye of Horus or sacred animals carried blessings of love and safety. Picture a bride receiving a delicate bracelet, not just as a gift but as a promise. "I will always be by your side." Every culture developed its own language of gifts. And a feather might mean freedom and loyalty. A shell could symbolize life and eternity. Even colors carried meaning. Red for passion, white for purity, blue for trust. These tokens were exchanged quietly, often in secret. A small pouch with herbs might be left on a doorstep. A folded piece of cloth, embroidered with symbols, might be slipped into a lover's hand during a festival. Imagine how thrilling it must have been to receive such a gift. Not just a physical object, but a secret message of love, hidden in plain sight. From the carved stones of early tribes to the rings and flowers of today, these gifts all carry the same message. "You are in my heart. I give you this piece of me." Love, though universal, has always been shaped by culture. Every civilization, every tribe, every kingdom found its own way to express affection, from grand public displays to quiet secret gestures. Now, we will journey across the world to explore rituals of wooing, the festivals, customs and traditions that allowed lovers to meet, to speak, and to show their devotion in ways both playful and profound. In ancient India, courtship was often woven into festivals and seasonal celebrations. During Holi, the festival of colors, young men and women playfully threw colored powders at one another, a chance for flirtation and laughter. A single playful gesture, a splash of color on the cheek, could mean "I see you." Classical dance and music were also powerful tools of courtship. In the temples, dancers performed mudras, hand gestures and movements that told stories of love and longing from sacred texts. A glance, a twirl, a raised hand, each motion was a silent language of romance. Imagine standing in a crowded festival, the air filled with music, as someone you secretly admire brushes a streak of bright pink color across your face. In that single touch, a connection is born. In Japan, courtship was often refined and elegant, expressed through poetry, calligraphy, and subtle acts of attention. During the Heian period, lovers exchanged tanka poems written with delicate brush strokes on folded paper or fans. A single poem might be accompanied by a sprig of cherry blossom, symbolizing the fleeting beauty of love. There were also night visits, a courtly custom where a man would approach a woman's home softly at night, leaving a poem or gift by her door. It was less about bold gestures and more about quiet persistence and sincerity. Imagine receiving a folded fan with a poem that reads, "Under the moonlight, your shadow touches my heart, like petals falling, silent but unforgettable. I dream of you tonight." In many African cultures, courtship was vibrant, communal, and full of life. Young men and women often expressed affection through dances performed during harvest festivals or gatherings. These dances were more than entertainment. They were a chance for couples to display grace, skill, and chemistry. Call and response songs were also common. A young man might sing a line of praise, and the woman he admired would respond with a verse of her own. These exchanges could be playful, teasing, or deeply romantic. Picture a warm evening under a starlit sky, drums echoing through the air, and two voices weaving together a love story through song and rhythm as the entire village cheers. In medieval Europe, courtship often blossomed during seasonal fairs and village festivals. These were some of the few times young men and women could meet freely, dance and exchange tokens. The tradition of chivalry also shaped romance. Knights would dedicate their victories in tournaments to the women they admired. A knight might wear a lady's ribbon or handkerchief tied to his armor, a silent but powerful declaration of love. May Day festivals, with their maypole dances, gave couples a chance to twirl and weave ribbons together, a symbolic act of unity. Imagine a knight kneeling after a joust, offering a single rose to the lady who inspired him. That rose was more than a flower, it was his heart. In Native American cultures, some tribes practiced courting flute rituals. A young man would play a soft tune outside a woman's home at dusk, the melody carrying his affection. In Nordic traditions, lovers carved runes into wooden sticks and exchanged them as tokens of their feelings. In Polynesian cultures, fragrant flower garlands or liqueurs were offered as symbols of love and welcome. Every culture found a way to turn courtship into something sacred, something creative. It wasn't always about words. Sometimes it was music, sometimes a dance, sometimes just a glance shared across a festival crowd. From the colourful festivals of India to the soft notes of a Japanese poem, from the heartbeat of African drums to the chivalry of medieval Europe, each ritual of wooing is a reminder that love is as diverse as humanity itself. Now we will explore how the rituals of old still live within us today, shaping how we love, how we dream, and how we connect. Consider the way we give flowers on special occasions. This tradition is thousands of years old, born from the belief that flowers carry meaning, beauty, purity, or passion. When we hand someone a rose today, we are echoing the same gestures made by Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians long ago. Think of love letters. Though we might send messages on screens now, the feeling is the same, the desire to write down what we cannot fully speak aloud. Every I miss you text is a distant descendant of the love poems carved into clay tablets in ancient Sumer. Even music, whether a heartfelt song sent as a voice note or a shared playlist, is a modern form of the serenade sung under moonlight centuries ago. Today, courtship feels faster, shaped by technology and convenience. Yet when we look closer, we see that the old traditions are still there, just in new forms. Instead of a carved figurine, we give personalized gifts or handwritten notes. Instead of waiting under a window with a lute, we send songs or record videos. Instead of reciting poems by the river, we write heartfelt captions or post words of affection online. The tools have changed, but the message has not. You are special. I choose you. I want to show you my heart. Courtship is not just about romance. It is about storytelling. Every gesture, a flower, a song, a letter, tells a story of care and thoughtfulness. The ancients believed that love required effort, creativity, and patience. A single poem or carved gift could take days or weeks to prepare. Today we may move faster, but the principle is still the same. To court someone is to say, "You are worth my time, my attention, my imagination." This feeling, this act of making love visible, is what keeps the art of courtship alive. Many of the symbols we use today have roots in ancient customs. Rings, a circle with no end, symbolizing eternity. Lockets and charms, echoes of talismans once given for protection and love. Love songs, modern ballads that carry the same longing as the tunes played on bamboo flutes and harps thousands of years ago. Even the idea of celebrating anniversaries comes from ancient rituals that honored the passage of time, a reminder that love, like the seasons, must be cherished and renewed. Take a moment now. Close your eyes. Think of someone you love, or once loved. Think of a small gesture, a gift, a word, a song, that made your heart feel full. These moments, simple as they seem, are the true language of love. They do not need to be grand. Even the smallest token, when given with sincerity, becomes timeless. The same way a carved stone once carried someone's heart across time, your words, your notes, your quiet acts of kindness carry your love today. From the fireside songs of ancient tribes to the playlists and letters of today, the rituals of courtship remain with us, alive and beautiful. As you drift into rest tonight, remember this. Remember this. Every act of love you give, a smile, a kind word, a small token, is part of a story that stretches across centuries. You are connected to every poet, every singer, every dreamer, whoever tried to say, "I love you." And that, perhaps, is the most beautiful ritual of all. Marriage has always been more than the love between two people. For much of history, it was a decision that rippled through families, clans, and even kingdoms. In ancient times, marriage was often less about personal choice and more about family honor, survival, and alliances. A single union could strengthen ties between powerful families, secure land, or forge peace between rival tribes. In this chapter, we explore how families and communities shaped the institution of marriage, how love, duty, and strategy often intertwined to create bonds that were as political as they were personal. In many ancient cultures, marriage was not just about two individuals. It was about two families becoming one. A bride and groom were seen as ambassadors of their lineage, carrying the pride, reputation, and future of their kin. Family honor was everything. A strong marriage could elevate a family's status, while a poorly arranged union could weaken its influence. In ancient China, the involvement of parents and matchmakers ensured that marriages aligned with social standing and the family's future prosperity. The bride's upbringing, behavior, and reputation reflected directly on her family, making the match a careful negotiation. In India, the concept of kula, clan, played a vital role. Marriages were arranged to maintain harmony and respect within the extended family network. Elders were often the final decision-makers, ensuring that the union benefited both sides. Throughout history, marriage was a powerful tool for building alliances. In ancient Egypt, pharaohs married not just for love, but to unite kingdoms. Marriages between royal families sealed political treaties and prevented wars. Foreign princesses were often sent to marry Egyptian rulers, symbolizing trust and cooperation between empires. Similarly, in Greece and Rome, wealthy families arranged marriages to merge estates, wealth, and influence. A single marriage could unite two powerful families, creating a stronger political presence. Among European royalty during the Middle Ages, almost every royal marriage was a strategic alliance, a way to secure borders, gain military support, or expand trade networks. In traditional societies, elders and community leaders played a central role in choosing marriage partners. In African tribes, marriages were often arranged after negotiations between families, with bride price or dowry as a sign of mutual respect. In Native American cultures, clan elders or parents often helped arrange unions, ensuring compatibility and strengthening intertribal bonds. In Japan's samurai class, marriage arrangements were a way to maintain or improve the family's rank and honor. Marriage was rarely a private affair. It was a community event, a collective decision meant to benefit everyone involved. Women, in particular, were seen as carriers of family honor. A daughter's marriage was often considered a reflection of her family's reputation and success. In many cultures, women were prepared from a young age to be good wives, taught domestic skills, etiquette, and traditions. While this limited personal choice, it also meant that women's marriages were considered vital to the prosperity and respect of the family line. Men, on the other hand, were often expected to marry strategically to increase wealth or influence. Love was secondary. The priority was ensuring the success of the family unit. Over time, the balance between family duty and personal desire began to shift. As societies evolved, especially in later centuries, love matches became more accepted. But even then, family approval was often necessary. The idea of marrying solely for love is relatively modern when we look at history's long timeline. Yet, even in arranged marriages, love often found a way to grow. Couples who began as strangers sometimes built strong, lasting partnerships, learning to care for each other as they navigated the responsibilities handed down by their families. Marriage, shaped by family honor and alliances, reminds us of how deeply connected we are to our roots. For our ancestors, a wedding was not just about romance. It was about survival, legacy, and the continuity of tradition. Even today, echoes of these customs remain. Families still play a role in guiding and blessing unions. The celebrations, the gatherings, the rituals, all are reminders that love is not just a private emotion, but a bond that brings families and communities together. As we reflect on these traditions, we see that marriage is not just the story of two hearts, but of many, all connected in a web of history, honor, and hope. Imagine standing on the banks of the Nile over 3,000 years ago. The sun glows gold over the water, papyrus plants sway in the warm breeze, and the city hums with the life of traders, farmers, and artisans. In this ancient land, marriage was more than just a personal commitment. It was a practical arrangement, a social contract, and for many, a partnership rooted in respect and affection. While there were no priests officiating elaborate ceremonies, the people of Egypt celebrated marriage in ways that revealed their values, their beliefs, and their hopes for the future. In Egypt, a marriage began when a man and woman decided to live together, often with family blessings and sometimes with formal written contracts. Unlike in many other ancient cultures, Egyptian women had a high level of independence. They could own property, inherit wealth, and even initiate divorce. Marriage, therefore, was often seen as a partnership of equals, at least in legal terms. Yet, marriage was still influenced by family ties. Parents frequently arranged matches for their children to secure alliances, wealth, or social stability. A marriage contract would outline details such as property rights and dowries, ensuring both families knew their responsibilities. Despite the practicality of marriage, the Egyptians also valued love and affection. Some of the world's oldest love poems come from ancient Egypt. Written on papyrus, they describe longing, beauty, and the joy of companionship. My heart longs to go walking with you, to gaze at your face, to be refreshed by your voice. And such writings remind us that behind the legal contracts and family negotiations, people were still deeply human, seeking warmth, tenderness, and connection. There were no formal wedding ceremonies in Egypt, but families celebrated the union with feasts, music, and gifts. The bride often received jewelry, perfumes, or fine linen from her husband. She adorned herself with kohl around her eyes and fragrant oils on her skin. Food was abundant: bread, beer, figs, and honey. Musicians played harps and flutes while dancers entertained the guests. These were moments of joy and unity, as both families came together to celebrate not only the couple but the continuation of their lineage. Marriage in Egypt also had a spiritual dimension. Though the state did not dictate religious ceremonies, many families prayed to the gods for blessings. Hathor, the goddess of love and beauty, was often invoked for a happy union. Isis and Osiris, the divine couple whose love story symbolized loyalty and rebirth, were powerful examples of marital devotion. Some couples even inscribed prayers or charms on amulets, asking for protection and fertility. Marriage was not only about two lives joining together, it was about aligning with cosmic harmony and divine favor. The Egyptians believed that a marriage could continue beyond death. Tomb paintings often depict husbands and wives side by side, holding hands, sharing offerings of bread and wine, as if their bond would live on in the afterlife. This belief gave marriage a unique weight. A loving spouse was not only a companion in life but a partner for eternity. Even in death, the union remained sacred. As we leave the golden sands of Egypt and journey northeast, we arrive in Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Here, where some of the world's earliest cities rose, marriage was a deeply structured institution. It was tied not just to family honor but to law, economy, and the will of the gods. In Sumer, Babylon and Assyria, marriage was as much a legal contract as it was a social union, and the customs of this land would influence countless civilizations to come. In Mesopotamia, a marriage was rarely just about love. It was a carefully negotiated agreement between families. A written contract, often inscribed on clay tablets, outlined the terms of the union. This could include the dowry, property or wealth brought by the bride price, a gift from the groom's family, and the rights of each spouse. The Code of Hammurabi, written around 1750 BCE, dedicated entire sections to marriage, inheritance, and divorce. It ensured that marriage was not left to chance. It was a structured partnership recognized by both family and state. This formality did not mean there was no affection. Couples often formed close bonds, but the foundation of marriage was rooted in stability, family honor, and economic security. Parents had a major say in arranging marriages. In Sumerian society, it was common for a father to choose a husband for his daughter, often to secure political ties, wealth, or protection. Once an agreement was made, both families exchanged gifts. The groom's family might offer silver, livestock, or grain, while the bride's family provided household goods as part of her dowry. Marriage was less about personal romance and more about strengthening the clan or community. The happiness of the couple was important, but it was secondary to the stability of their families. A Mesopotamian wedding could be both simple and sacred. The couple often exchanged vows before witnesses and sealed their union with a ceremonial feast. Food, wine, and music flowed as families celebrated the new alliance. A ritual might also involve offerings to the gods. Small figurines or symbolic gifts were placed on altars to seek blessings for fertility and prosperity. Some evidence suggests that the bride and groom may have shared bread or honey to symbolize sweetness and unity, a tradition that echoes in wedding feasts even today. Marriage in Mesopotamia was closely tied to religion. The goddess Inanna, known as Ishtar in Babylon, was seen as the divine force of love, fertility and passion. Priests and priestesses performed sacred rites to honor her, ensuring that unions were blessed with harmony and prosperity. In royal weddings, the king would often symbolically marry the goddess through rituals, reinforcing his divine right to rule. This blending of spirituality and marriage highlights how deeply intertwined personal life was with divine order. Though marriage was patriarchal, women in Mesopotamia had certain rights. A woman could inherit property from her family, and if a husband failed to provide for her, she could seek divorce under specific laws. However, women were expected to uphold family honor. Fidelity was heavily emphasized, and marriage was seen as a means to produce heirs and strengthen the family's lineage. Despite these strict rules, archaeological findings, letters, tablets, and art reveal that many marriages were affectionate partnerships, with couples expressing care and companionship. Marriage in Mesopotamia was a blend of law, family duty, and divine will. It was a union that connected households and honored the gods, ensuring that love, when it bloomed, grew within the boundaries of structure and tradition. From the clay tablets of Hammurabi to the songs dedicated to Inanna, we see a culture where marriage was not just personal but cosmic, a reflection of the harmony between humanity and the divine. From the clay tablets of Mesopotamia, we sail across the Mediterranean, where the deep blue waters kiss the rugged coastlines of ancient Greece. Congratulations, you are in Greece. Here, marriage was both a social contract and a celebration. It was less about romantic love, and more about family honor, continuity, and duty to the gods. Yet, in its ceremonies filled with music, torches, and feasting, we find beauty, tradition, and a profound sense of belonging. In this chapter, we explore Greek marriage rituals, from the careful arrangements of families to the sacred rites performed under the watchful eyes of the Olympian gods. In Greece, marriage was rarely about individual choice. Families arranged unions to strengthen social standing, forge alliances, and ensure the continuation of the family name. A father's role was pivotal. It was he who selected a suitable husband for his daughter, often negotiating dowries and household responsibilities. The bride's reputation and virtue were of utmost importance. Her marriage reflected not just on her but on her entire family. For wealthy families, a marriage could unite land and resources, while for ordinary people, it ensured stability and support. The days leading up to a Greek wedding were filled with preparation and symbolism. The bride underwent a ritual bath, often in water drawn from sacred springs, symbolizing purification and readiness for her new life. She was adorned in a white robe, and her hair was carefully braided and decorated with ribbons. The groom, too, prepared by making offerings to the gods, often Zeus and Hera, seeking blessings for a prosperous marriage and healthy children. This connection to the divine underscored the belief that marriage was not just a social contract but a sacred one. The wedding day, or gamos, was a joyous occasion marked by ceremony and festivity. The event often began with a procession from the bride's home to the groom's house. At dusk, family and friends would accompany the bride, carrying torches to light the path. Musicians played flutes and lyres, and songs, sometimes teasing, sometimes celebratory, filled the air. Upon arrival, the bride and groom were seated together, and the feast began. Bread, honey, fruits, and wine were served, each carrying symbolic meaning. Honey, for instance, represented sweetness and fertility. Greek marriages were performed under the gaze of the gods, especially Hera, the goddess of marriage and family. Offerings were made to her, asking for a harmonious union. Mythology often mirrored these values. The stories of Zeus and Hera, though turbulent, symbolized the cosmic balance between male and female energies. Couples hoped to emulate the divine blessings of the gods, if not their storms. Libations of wine were poured during the feast, offered to the gods as a gesture of gratitude and respect. After the ceremony, the bride was formally introduced to her husband's household. She would offer gifts to the household gods and begin her role as the keeper of the home. The day after the wedding, the bride's family would send a feast, known as the Epaulia, to the newlyweds, filled with gifts such as woven textiles, pottery, and even perfumes. Though the marriage was arranged, couples often developed strong bonds over time, built on shared responsibilities, respect, and the rhythms of daily life. In ancient Greece, marriage was more than a union between two individuals. It was a celebration of family, a tribute to the gods, and a continuation of heritage. From the torchlit processions to the feasts of honey and wine, these rituals remind us of a time when marriage was woven into the very fabric of community life. As we leave the marble temples of Greece and journey further east, we arrive in the vibrant spiritual land of ancient India. Here, marriage was not just a social agreement or a family alliance. It was seen as a sacred bond of souls, a ritual that connected the couple not just for this life but across lifetimes. Let's explore the rich traditions of Indian marriage, the sacred fire, the rhythmic chants, the symbolic steps, and the deep spiritual meaning that turned marriage into a journey of love, duty, and dharma. In the Vedic traditions of ancient India, marriage was called vivaha, which means carrying the duties of life together. It was considered one of the key samskaras, or sacred rites of passage, that purified and prepared a person for the next phase of life. Marriage was seen as a partnership between two souls who would walk together not only to create a family, but to pursue dharma, righteous living, and spiritual growth. It was believed that only by entering the householder stage, grihastha ashram, could one fully fulfill life's duties and give back to society. Families played a central role in arranging marriages. Parents sought a partner for their child by carefully examining family lineage, social status, and, most importantly, horoscopes. Astrologers were consulted to match the stars of the bride and groom, ensuring that the union was blessed by cosmic harmony. A good astrological match meant not only a happy life, but also prosperity and good health for future generations. While the couple's own feelings were considered, the union was primarily a merging of two families, two lineages coming together for honor and continuity. The days leading up to an Indian wedding were filled with rituals and celebration. One of the most beautiful customs was the mehendi ceremony, where the bride's hands and feet were decorated with intricate henna patterns, symbolizing beauty, love, and joy. There were also blessings from elders, offerings to family deities, and the preparation of sacred items for the wedding altar. Bright colors filled the air, red, gold, and yellow, each carrying spiritual meaning. Red symbolized fertility and passion, gold represented purity, and yellow brought the warmth of divine blessings. The heart of the Indian wedding ceremony was the sacred fire, Agni. The couple sat before the fire, which was believed to carry their vows to the gods. As Vedic priests chanted mantras, the bride and groom performed saptapadi, or the 7 steps. With each step, they made a promise to share responsibilities, to support each other, to nurture their family, and to walk together in faith and love. A symbolic cord or cloth was tied between them, representing their union as one soul. As they walked around the fire, the sparks rose like blessings into the sky. Indian weddings were never just private events. They were community celebrations filled with music, dance, and joy. Drums, flutes, and conch shells echoed as friends and relatives sang songs of love and blessings. The feast that followed was a grand affair, featuring rice, sweets, fruits, and fragrant curries, a reminder of abundance and prosperity. The bride and groom often received symbolic gifts, jewelry, textiles, or sacred scriptures, all meant to guide them in their new life together. In ancient India, marriage was a sacred journey, one that connected love, family, and spiritual duty. As the flames of Agni burned bright, couples pledged not just to each other, but to a shared path of growth and devotion. As we leave the sacred fires of India, we journey further east into the vast and ancient land of China, where the philosophy of harmony shaped every aspect of life, including marriage. In ancient China, marriage was seen not just as a bond between two individuals, but as an event that balanced heaven and earth, honored the ancestors, and maintained the flow of family lineage. It was a union steeped in symbolism, ritual, and color, especially the color red, the eternal emblem of happiness, good fortune, and love. In ancient Chinese society, marriage was deeply tied to the concept of filial piety, the respect and honor owed to one's parents and ancestors. A marriage was not simply a personal choice but a family responsibility. Parents were often the decision-makers, ensuring that the chosen spouse would bring harmony, respect, and prosperity to the family. To ensure compatibility, a matchmaker was frequently employed, serving as an intermediary between families. Horoscopes and zodiac signs were also consulted. It was believed that aligning the couple's birth charts would bring balance and a prosperous future. The Mi Ren, or matchmaker, was a trusted figure in Chinese society. They negotiated dowries, exchanged gifts, and ensured that both families felt the union was honorable and beneficial. This process was not merely transactional. It was a way of building trust and respect between two households. The families would exchange formal letters of proposal, followed by the presentation of betrothal gifts, often including silk, tea, and jewelry, each representing wealth, purity, and longevity. When the wedding day arrived, the bride was dressed in a dazzling red robe embroidered with gold thread, her face often veiled with a red cloth. Red symbolized joy and luck, while gold signified prosperity. The groom wore formal robes, sometimes with a red sash to match the bride's attire. Drums, gongs, and firecrackers filled the air, chasing away evil spirits and announcing the joyous event to the community. One of the most intimate and respected customs was the tea ceremony. The bride and groom knelt before their parents and served them tea, bowing deeply to show gratitude and respect. This act was more than a gesture. It symbolized the merging of two families and the acceptance of the couple's new roles. In return, the couple received blessings, often accompanied by gifts, gold jewelry, jade ornaments, or red envelopes filled with money, known as hongbao. The wedding banquet was a grand feast, often featuring dishes that symbolized good fortune: fish for abundance, dumplings for wealth, and sweet lotus seed desserts for fertility. The entire community joined in the celebration, with music, laughter, and traditional dances. It was a time of unity, where the joy of one family became the joy of many. Even the decorations were steeped in symbolism. Red lanterns, double happiness symbols, and paper cuttings adorned the venue, creating an atmosphere of warmth and fortune. In ancient China, marriage was a blend of family duty, spiritual belief, and heartfelt celebration. It honored ancestors, brought families together, and symbolized a future of prosperity and harmony. From the red silk robes to the quiet reverence of the tea ceremony, every detail reflected a culture deeply rooted in respect, gratitude, and love. Our journey now arrives in ancient Rome, a civilization that valued order, law, and tradition above all. In Rome, marriage was not only a personal bond, but also a legal institution. It was a union that carried the weight of family honor, social status, and even political power. For the Romans, marriage represented the strength of the household, the domus, which was seen as the foundation of the empire itself. In Roman society, marriage was less about romance and more about duty to the family and the state. There were different types of marriages, but the most prestigious was conferatio, a highly ceremonial form reserved for patrician families. It was performed in the presence of the Pontifex Maximus and other priests, with offerings made to Jupiter, the king of the gods. For most citizens, marriage involved a contract, a written agreement outlining dowries, property rights, and inheritance. These legal documents ensured that family wealth and status remained intact across generations. Roman women held an interesting position in marriage. While they were expected to uphold virtue, loyalty, and the honor of the household, they also had certain legal protections. A bride would bring a dowry, but under certain arrangements she retained some rights over her property. Widows could even control their own wealth, a rare privilege compared to other ancient civilizations. However, the ideal Roman wife was expected to manage the household, oversee servants, and raise children to become honorable citizens of Rome. A Roman wedding was filled with symbolism and ritual. On the morning of her wedding, the bride would dress in a white tunic, symbolizing purity, and a flame-colored veil, called the flammeum, which represented the warmth of the hearth and the sacred fire of Vesta. During the ceremony, the couple clasped right hands in the dextrum iunctua, a gesture of unity and trust. Witnesses, family, and friends were present as prayers were offered to the household gods or lares, seeking their protection and blessing. After the formal rites, the wedding feast or convivium began. Tables overflowed with bread, honey cakes, roasted meats, fruits, and wine. Music, poetry, and sometimes games filled the evening as guests celebrated the new union. One of the most striking traditions was the bride's journey to her husband's home. Accompanied by torchbearers and friends, she would carry symbols of domestic life, wool, bread, or a distaff, representing her new role as the keeper of the household. Among Rome's elite, marriage was often a political tool. Alliances between powerful families strengthened influence and ensured loyalty to the empire. Emperors and senators arranged marriages to secure wealth, land, and military power. The marriage of Julius Caesar's daughter Julia to Pompey the Great was one such alliance, designed to unite two powerful factions of Rome. Yet even within these strategic unions, affection and companionship sometimes flourished, showing that love could grow even in the shadow of duty. Roman marriage, with its mix of law, ritual and symbolism, leaves us with a portrait of a society that valued family as the foundation of civilization. From the clasp of hands in the dextrum on Yonko to the warmth of the flammum, every detail of a Roman wedding echoed the belief that a strong home created a strong empire. From Egypt's golden banks to Mesopotamia's clay tablets, to Greece's torchlit feasts, to India's sacred fire, to China's red silk, and finally to Rome's marble halls, we see a universal truth emerge. Marriage, in every culture, has always been a reflection of humanity's deepest values: love, family, honor, and the hope of building a future together. Now, close your eyes and imagine the warm breeze of the Nile brushing against your face. The sound of water laps softly against wooden boats, and the distant hum of music drifts from the great city of Alexandria. In this ancient world of marble palaces and golden thrones, we begin our journey with a love story that is as powerful as it is tragic: the romance of Cleopatra VII of Egypt and Mark Antony of Rome. This is not just a tale of two hearts, but of empires, ambition, and destiny. A love that would defy politics, shake nations, and ultimately change the course of history. Cleopatra was no ordinary queen. Born into the Ptolemaic dynasty, she was highly educated, speaking multiple languages, studying philosophy, astronomy, and politics. She was both a scholar and a strategist. But Cleopatra's power was not only in her mind, it was in her presence. Ancient writers describe her voice as enchanting, her wit as sharp as a blade. She was not simply beautiful, she was magnetic, a queen who commanded attention wherever she went. By the time she met Mark Antony, she had already been a partner of Julius Caesar and mothered his son Caesar Merion. With Caesar gone, the world of Rome was plunged into chaos. Antony, one of Rome's great generals, now stood among the most powerful men alive. Their paths were destined to cross. Mark Antony was a soldier of unmatched courage, a man who had fought alongside Julius Caesar himself, known for his loyalty and his fiery spirit. Antony was also known for his charm and love of pleasure. Yet, by the time he sailed to meet Cleopatra in 41 BCE, he was facing immense political pressure in Rome. His partnership with Cleopatra was both strategic and personal. Egypt was rich, powerful, and full of resources that Rome coveted. But when Antony met Cleopatra, their connection went beyond politics. Cleopatra understood the art of spectacle. When Antony summoned her to Tarsus, she didn't just arrive, she arrived like a goddess. Ancient accounts describe her sailing up the Cydnus River on a golden barge, its purple sails billowing in the wind. She sat beneath a canopy dressed as Aphrodite, the goddess of love, while attendants fanned her with feathers. Musicians played sweet melodies, and the scent of perfume filled the air. Antony was captivated. This was not just a queen, this was a legend in the making. From that moment, their destinies became intertwined. Cleopatra and Antony's relationship was as much about love as it was about survival. For Cleopatra, Antony was the key to protecting Egypt's independence against Roman aggression. For Antony, Cleopatra offered wealth, power, and a sense of freedom far from Rome's cold politics. They spent entire seasons together in Alexandria, indulging in feasts, games, and even creating a private club called the Inimitable Livers, where they celebrated life, love, and pleasure. But while they reveled in love, Rome whispered. Their relationship was seen as scandalous, a threat to Roman values. Octavian, the future Augustus Caesar, used this as a weapon to turn Rome against Antony. Their love story reached its tragic climax during the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. Antony's forces, weakened by Octavian's naval might, were defeated. Cleopatra fled the battle, and Antony, torn between duty and love, followed her. As Octavian advanced on Alexandria, Antony and Cleopatra realized their fate was sealed. In 30 BCE, believing Cleopatra to be dead, Antony fell on his own sword. He died in her arms, whispering his last words of love. Cleopatra, refusing to be paraded as a trophy in Rome, chose her own end, according to legend, by the bite of an asp. Together they entered history as lovers who defied the world, even in death. The love of Cleopatra and Mark Antony shaped the fate of empires. Their story marked the end of Egypt's independence and the birth of Rome as an empire under Augustus. But beyond politics, their romance has endured for over 2,000 years, a reminder that love, when powerful enough, can challenge the mightiest of empires. From the sunlit palaces of Alexandria, we now travel to the lush mystical forests of Vrindavan, where the divine love of Radha and Krishna dances like music in the wind, teaching us that some loves transcend time itself. Now close your eyes and picture a quiet evening in Vrindavan. The sun is setting, casting golden light over the Yamuna River. A gentle breeze stirs the trees, and the air is filled with the distant sound of flute music, a melody so pure it feels like the heartbeat of the universe. This is where we find the story of Radha and Krishna, one of the most celebrated and divine romances in history. Unlike earthly love, theirs is said to be eternal, beyond time, beyond lifetimes. It is a love of the soul, a bond that represents the longing between the human heart and the divine. Krishna was born in the city of Mathura, under the shadow of danger. His uncle, the tyrant Kansa, had sworn to kill him because of a prophecy that Krishna would be his downfall. Smuggled across the Yamuna River on a stormy night, the baby Krishna was raised by the humble cowherds of Gokul. From a young age, he was no ordinary child. His beauty, his mischievous smile, and his divine aura enchanted all who saw him. But among all the hearts he touched, there was one that beat only for him, Radha. Radha was a village girl, a simple cowherdess, but her soul recognized Krishna's divinity. She was not just in love with him, she saw him as her very existence, her breath, her essence. Legends say that whenever Krishna played his flute, Radha would drop everything to find him. No force on earth could keep her from his music. Theirs was a love that was both innocent and cosmic, human yet divine. In every meeting, every glance, they embodied the dance of longing and union, a love so powerful that it became a spiritual path for millions. One of the most beautiful images of Radha and Krishna's love is the Raslila, the divine dance. On moonlit nights, Krishna would play his flute, and the gopis, the cowherd girls, would leave their homes, drawn to him like rivers rushing to the ocean. In that circle of dance, Krishna would appear beside each one, yet his gaze always found Radha. This dance was not just about joy, it was about surrender. It symbolized the soul's desire to merge with the divine, to lose itself in the rhythm of love. But their love was not without sorrow. Krishna, destined for a life beyond the fields of Vrindavan, eventually left for Mathura to fulfill his divine purpose, to defeat evil and guide humanity. His departure left Radha's heart shattered, yet her love never faded. It is said that Radha's longing, her viraha, or love in separation, was even more powerful than union. Her tears, her yearning, became the highest form of devotion, teaching that true love is not about possession, but about surrender. Though Radha and Krishna were separated in the physical world, their souls were never apart. In Indian spiritual thought, Radha represents the bhakta, the devotee, and Krishna is the divine beloved. Their story teaches that love is a path to God, that longing itself can become a form of prayer. For centuries, poets, saints and musicians, from Jayadeva's Gita Govinda to the songs of Mirabai, have sung of Radha and Krishna, keeping their love alive in hearts and temples across the world. Radha and Krishna's love is not bound by time or space. It is a reminder that the deepest love is not about holding on, but about transcending self, becoming one with something eternal. As we leave the moonlit forests of Vrindavan, we journey west to the world of ancient Greece, where another love, that of Eros and Psyche, tells the story of trust, trials, and the soul's transformation. Imagine the soft glow of an ancient Greek sunset, the Aegean Sea shimmering like liquid gold. The wind whispers through marble temples, and somewhere, on Olympus, the gods watch over mortals with curiosity and passion. Among the many love stories of Greek mythology, few are as tender, mysterious, and transformative as that of Eros and Psyche. It is a tale of love hidden and revealed, of trust broken and restored, and of a soul's journey to awaken to true love. A story that has echoed through art, poetry, and philosophy for over 2,000 years. Psyche was a mortal princess, so beautiful that people whispered she was fairer than Aphrodite, the goddess of love herself. Crowds came from far and wide to admire her beauty, neglecting Aphrodite's temples in favor of worshipping Psyche as if she were divine. But such comparisons angered the goddess. Aphrodite, jealous and furious, sent her son Eros, the god of desire, to punish Psyche by making her fall in love with a hideous creature. Yet when Eros saw Psyche's beauty, he could not bring himself to harm her. Instead, he fell in love. Eros whisked Psyche away to a hidden palace, where he visited her each night under the cover of darkness. "Do not try to see my face," he told her. "Trust me, and we will live in happiness." In the beginning, Psyche was content. The palace was filled with music and warmth. She felt Eros's love in his words and touch, even if she could not see him. But doubt began to grow, planted by her envious sisters, who warned her that her mysterious lover might be a monster. One night, Psyche could no longer resist. As Eros slept, she lit an oil lamp to look upon him, and what she saw took her breath away. There, before her, was not a monster, but the most beautiful god she had ever imagined. Overcome with wonder, she leaned closer, and a drop of hot oil from the lamp fell on Eros's shoulder. He awoke, wounded not just in body but in trust. "You have broken faith," he said, before vanishing into the night. Psyche was left alone, her heart shattered. Desperate to win Eros back, Psyche sought the help of Aphrodite herself. But the goddess, still jealous, set her a series of impossible tasks. She had to sort a mountain of seeds in a single night. She had to retrieve golden wool from dangerous rams. She had to descend into the underworld to fetch a box of beauty from Persephone. With courage, perseverance, and the help of kind forces, even ants and river reeds aided her. Psyche accomplished each task. Her journey symbolized the trials that true love often endures. Moved by Psyche's devotion, Eros returned to her. He carried her to Olympus, where even Zeus and the gods were touched by their love. Psyche was granted immortality, becoming a goddess herself. In Greek, her name means soul, and the story of Eros and Psyche became a metaphor for the soul's journey, through suffering and trust, to unite with divine love. Their union was celebrated with ambrosia and eternal joy, a love that no trial could ever break again. Eros and Psyche's tale tells us that love is not just about desire, but about growth, trust, and transformation. It is a story of the soul learning to see beyond fear and to embrace the light of true connection. From the marble palaces of Olympus, we now descend into the fertile plains of Mesopotamia, where one of humanity's oldest love stories, that of Inanna and Dumuzi, shaped kingship, fertility, and the rhythm of the seasons. Let us travel back in time, far beyond Greece and Rome, to the cradle of civilization, ancient Mesopotamia. Here, in the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, life was ruled by the rhythms of nature, the rising and falling of the waters, the cycles of planting and harvest, and the stories of gods who embodied these forces. Among these deities, none were as radiant or powerful as Inanna, the goddess of love, war, and fertility. And in her life there was a love so profound it was woven into the seasons themselves. Her union with the shepherd king Dumuzi. Inanna, also known as Ishtar, was revered as the queen of heaven. She was not a gentle goddess. She was fierce, bold, and unafraid to claim what she desired. Her temples, adorned with golden carvings and fragrant incense, were centers of both worship and power. Priests and priestesses sang hymns praising her beauty and strength, calling her the morning and evening star. Among all mortals, it was Dumuzi, a humble shepherd with kind eyes and hands that knew the earth, who captured Inanna's heart. His songs of devotion and his simple yet noble spirit drew her close. Dumuzi was not born a king, but through his union with Inanna, he became one. Ancient Mesopotamians believed that the prosperity of their land and crops depended on the harmony between the divine and the mortal. Through the sacred marriage ritual, Inanna and Dumuzi's love symbolized this union of heaven and earth, ensuring fertility and abundance for the kingdom. Their love was celebrated in poetry, with verses describing how Dumuzi would offer milk and dates to his beloved, while Inanna's heart blossomed like the fields in spring. Their wedding was not just a personal event, but a cosmic ceremony. Priests would enact the sacred union in temples, believing that Inanna's love for Dumuzi brought the rains, the harvest, and the renewal of life. The joining of goddess and shepherd was a reminder that divine favor could turn humble origins into greatness. In the hymns, Inanna declares, "My beloved, the delight of my eyes, I will bathe you in fragrant oils. I will clothe you in royal garments. You will lie by my side on the sacred bed." But like the seasons, love has its cycles of joy and sorrow. One of the most powerful myths tells of Inanna's descent into the underworld. Seeking wisdom and power, she ventured into the realm of her sister Ereshkigal, queen of the dead. But once Inanna descended, she could not return, unless another took her place. It was Dumuzi who was chosen. His descent to the underworld marked the start of summer's drought and the withering of crops. When he returned, the rains and greenery followed. Their love became a reflection of nature's eternal cycle of death, rebirth, and renewal. The story of Inanna and Dumuzi is not just a tale of romance, but of cosmic balance. Their union was reenacted each year in sacred rites, linking the power of love to the survival of the people. To the Sumerians, their story explained the seasons, the harvests, and the mysteries of life and death. Even today, fragments of their hymns survive on ancient clay tablets, whispers of a love so strong that it shaped the earliest civilizations. Inanna and Dumuzi's love teaches us that love is both divine and earthy, tender and fierce, a force that can sustain the world. From the fertile plains of Mesopotamia, we now rise into the starry skies of ancient China, where another story of love unfolds, one of longing, separation, and reunion, written across the heavens, the cowherd and the weaver girl. Look up at the night sky, see the shimmering path of the Milky Way, stretching like silver threads across the heavens. For the people of ancient China, those stars were not just distant suns, they were part of a love story, one of longing and reunion, written in the sky itself. This is the tale of Nuilang, the cowherd, and Xinu, the weaver girl, a love so powerful and sorrowful that it gave birth to one of China's most beloved festivals, Qixi, celebrated even today. Xinu was not a mortal. She was a celestial maiden, the daughter of the Jade Emperor, ruler of the heavens. Her skill in weaving clouds and spinning colourful robes for the gods was unmatched, but her life, though heavenly, was lonely. Day after day, she wove on her loom, never knowing the thrill of love or the warmth of companionship. Her heart longed for something more, a connection beyond duty. Far below, on earth, lived Nuilang, a kind and hard-working cowherd. He had little wealth, no noble title, but a heart as pure as the open fields where he tended his cattle. One day, with the help of a magical old cow, said to be an immortal being in disguise, Nuilang encountered Xinu as she descended to earth with her celestial sisters to bathe in a river. It was love at first sight. Xinu, seeing his kindness and humility, chose to stay by his side. They built a simple, happy life together, filled with laughter, warmth, and love. But their love was not meant to last. When the Jade Emperor discovered that Xinu had fallen in love with a mortal, he was furious. Such a union between heaven and earth was forbidden. The heavenly guards descended, taking Xinu back to the skies, far from Nuilang's reach. Heartbroken, Nuilang could not bear life without her. With the help of the magical cow who sacrificed itself to create a flying robe, Nuilang soared into the heavens, his two children held close in search of his beloved. But just as he reached her, the Queen Mother of the West drew her golden hairpin and swept it across the sky, creating a wide, shining river, the Milky Way, forever separating them. Xinu stood on one side, Nuilang on the other, their cries echoing across the stars. Their love, once so close, became a tale of eternal longing. Yet their devotion moved even the Jade Emperor, who allowed them a single gift, one day each year, to reunite. On the 7th day of the 7th lunar month, a miracle occurs. According to legend, thousands of magpies fly up to the heavens, forming a bridge with their wings, so that Nuilang and Xinu can meet. This day became known as Courtship, the festival of lovers. Even today, couples in China celebrate this story, offering prayers for a love as enduring as theirs. The stars Vega and Altair, shining bright in the summer sky, are said to represent Xinu and Nuilang, forever looking at each other across the silver river of the Milky Way. The story of Nuilang and Xinu reminds us that love can transcend distance, even if it cannot always escape fate. It tells of longing that spans worlds, and of hope that even a single day together is worth an eternity of waiting. From the heavens above China, we now return to Earth, to the rugged mountains of Central Asia, where a conqueror and a princess, Alexander the Great and Roxana, forged a union that would bridge two vast worlds. Picture the dusty roads of Central Asia under a blazing sun. Armies march across the land, banners flying, swords glinting. For this is the era of Alexander the Great, the conqueror who united East and West under one vision. But even the mightiest conqueror has a heart. Amid his campaigns and victories, Alexander found not just empires, but love, a love that would bridge cultures and live on in history. This is the story of Alexander and Roxana. Alexander of Macedon was only in his 20s when he created one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. Tutored by Aristotle, skilled in warfare, and driven by an unshakable ambition, he marched from Greece to Persia, from Egypt to the heart of Asia. But for all his power and brilliance, Alexander was a man who understood the importance of unity. He did not simply conquer lands, he sought to merge cultures, blending Greek traditions with those of the East. In 327 BCE, after a long campaign through Central Asia, Alexander captured a fortress in Sogdiana, a rugged land of mountains and valleys in what is now Uzbekistan or Tajikistan. Among the captured nobility was Roxana, the daughter of a Sogdian leader. She was renowned for her beauty and grace, described as the most beautiful woman in all of Asia. Her presence struck Alexander not with the desire of conquest, but with admiration and love. Alexander married Roxana, not as a trophy of war but as an equal partner, a symbolic union of East and West. Their wedding was celebrated with a traditional Persian ceremony, blending Greek and Sogdian customs. It was more than a personal romance. It was a statement of his vision for a world where cultures could coexist, where love and respect could transcend boundaries. Alexander's life burned brightly, but briefly. In 323 BCE, at only 32 years old, he died in Babylon. Roxana, pregnant with his child, gave birth to Alexander IV, the boy who would inherit his father's legacy, though the great empire soon fractured. Roxana's later life was marked by political intrigue and danger, but her love story with Alexander remains immortal. It is a tale of a conqueror who, amidst the chaos of war, found a moment of peace and unity through love. From Cleopatra and Antony's tragic passion, to Radha and Krishna's divine devotion, from Psyche's trials to Inanna's sacred bond, from the stars of Niulang and Jinu to Alexander and Roxana's union of cultures. Each story reminds us that love is not just personal. It shapes the destiny of nations, inspires legends and echoes across time. As you drift into thought, imagine these lovers, under the sun, under the stars, whispering the same truth. Love is the force that binds us all, beyond history, beyond life itself. Close your eyes and take a slow breath. Feel your heart beating steady, quiet, timeless. Love in its purest form is as old as humanity itself. Before words, before rituals, even before the idea of marriage, love existed. It flickered in glances across firelight, in the laughter shared between two souls, in the longing that could not be explained but only felt. Tonight, we reflect on how love has always transcended time, surviving through every change of culture, tradition, and history. Marriage, as we know it today, is only one way people have chosen to celebrate love. Thousands of years ago, long before laws or ceremonies, love was simply the force that drew two hearts together. In tribal communities, couples found each other through song, through dance, through the sharing of stories. No priest, no paperwork, no witnesses, just two souls choosing each other under the stars. Love didn't need a name. It was felt in the warmth of a hand, the promise of a shared life, the quiet trust of being seen. As civilizations grew, marriage began to take shape, not as a symbol of love, but as a way to unite families, share property, and secure alliances. Yet, even within arranged unions, love found its way. It whispered between lines of duty, blossoming slowly like a flower growing through stone. Over time, societies began to weave love into the meaning of marriage, blending what was once a contract into something deeper, more intimate, more human. Across every culture, love has spoken the same language. Whether it was Radha and Krishna in India, Antony and Cleopatra in Egypt, or a humble cowherd gazing at the stars in China, love's essence has never changed. It is longing and laughter. It is sacrifice and hope. It is the feeling of being home, not in a place but in a person. Love survives war and peace, wealth and poverty, distance and time, because love belongs to the heart, and the heart knows no boundaries. Even now, in our modern world of screens and endless noise, love is what we search for. We may swipe and click, text and call, but the feeling is the same as it was thousands of years ago, a quiet joy, a steadying warmth, the moment you realize you are not alone. Love has transcended time, because it does not live in traditions or customs. It lives in us. It is both ancient and new, both fragile and eternal. As you listen now, perhaps you feel a memory rising, a first love, a gentle hand, a moment where time seemed to stop. That is love's gift. Marriage will continue to evolve just as societies change. But love? Love will remain. It is the thread that connects us to the past, to the future, and to each other. So take a deep breath, and remember, love is always here, waiting quietly as it always has, transcending time. Now, close your eyes and listen. There is a rhythm inside you, the quiet pulse of your own heart. That sound has been beating within every human who has ever lived, across all ages, across all lands. Love begins here, not in ceremonies or contracts, but in the human heart. Before history was written, before languages formed, people still looked at each other with the same wonder. They laughed, they held hands, they cared. Love existed, quietly but powerfully, even when life was harsh, when survival was all that mattered. In ancient hunter-gatherer times, there were no weddings, no vows. Yet, love revealed itself in simple acts, the sharing of food, the protection of another, the warmth of sleeping side by a fire. Even in its earliest form, love was about connection, a silent promise to care and to stay. It needed no definition, because the heart already understood. Imagine a young woman, thousands of years ago, smiling as she sees someone return from the hunt. Imagine the quiet pride of a man carving something beautiful as a gift, just to see her face light up. That was love, pure, unspoken but real. As societies grew, love became more than survival. It began to take on a spiritual glow. In early cultures, love was connected to the divine, seen as a blessing from the gods. In Sumerian hymns, the union of Inanna and Dumuzi was celebrated not only as passion but as the very life force that made crops grow and rivers flow. Love was recognized as sacred, not just between two people, but as something that touched all of life. Marriage was not always born from love. For centuries it was about alliances, property and family honor. Yet even within these arrangements, love found a way to bloom. Couples who began as strangers discovered tenderness. They found companionship in shared struggles and joy in simple moments. Love is like water. It flows through whatever path is given, finding its way even through stone. And so even when marriage was just a contract, love quietly transformed it into something deeper. Love has never belonged to one time or one place. Across the world, every culture has its own love stories, whispered in poems, sung in songs, carved into stone. Some of these stories remind us that love is not just a feeling, but a force that shapes history. In ancient Egypt, love was woven with power and devotion. The legendary romance of Cleopatra and Mark Antony was both political and passionate, a union that defied empires and changed the fate of nations. But beyond palaces and battles, their story reminds us that love is not always easy. Sometimes it is a rebellion, a risk, a fire that burns even when the world disapproves. In India, the love of Radha and Krishna was not about possession or marriage. It was about surrender, a spiritual longing that became a path to the divine. Their story is not just a romance, but a meditation on love as devotion, as something that makes us more than human. It teaches that true love is not always about being together, but about being connected, soul to soul. From Greece comes the tale of Eros and Psyche, where love must endure trials, mistrust and pain before it can blossom into something eternal. This story whispers that love is not just about attraction, it is about growth, forgiveness, and the courage to trust again. Whether love is royal or humble, divine or human, it always carries the same heartbeat. The need to be understood, to be seen, to belong. The ways we express love may change, but the feeling, it is timeless. Now, let's take a deep breath and reflect on what love means today. In our world of fast connections, where messages are sent in seconds, we sometimes forget that love does not rush. It moves in its own rhythm, quiet, patient, like the slow opening of a flower. Marriage has evolved from a contract to a romantic ideal to a personal choice. But love is what gives marriage its meaning. Couples today marry for love, but the challenges remain the same as they were centuries ago. To keep the connection alive, to grow together, to remember why the heart chose in the first place. Think about this. The love you feel now in this moment is not so different from the love felt by a shepherd in Mesopotamia, or a princess in China, or a poet in ancient Greece. Love is the universal language of humanity. It crosses time, borders, and cultures. It is both ordinary and extraordinary. So as you listen, let this thought settle deep in your heart. Love has always existed. It was there before history began, and it will remain when everything else fades. Whether in ancient temples or modern cities, love is the thread that connects all of us. A reminder that no matter how much the world changes, the human heart remains the same. Take a deep breath and slowly let it go. You've just journeyed through stories of love that shaped history. Yet here you are, realizing that the same force that united those hearts exists within you. Love is not something locked in the past. It is alive, flowing like a river through time, reaching from the dawn of humanity to this very moment. Close your eyes if you can, and imagine the moments of love you have known. Maybe it was the quiet warmth of your mother's hand. Maybe it was the smile of someone who saw the real you. These moments are not gone. They live within you like a soft echo, always there to remind you that you were loved, and you can love. Think of all the souls who have loved across time. Lovers in ancient temples, poets writing by candlelight, couples who walked through fields under 1,000 stars. Their stories may be forgotten, but the feeling, the quiet human heartbeat of love remains unchanged. We are connected to them because love has no boundaries, no ending. Breathe in slowly, and as you exhale, let gratitude fill your heart. Gratitude for the love you've felt, for the love you've given, and for the love that is yet to come. Every time you have loved in joy, in pain, in longing, you have touched something eternal, and that eternal thread of love holds you gently, even now. Love is powerful, but it is also tender. It can endure wars, survive distance, and rise even from heartbreak. The great romances of history, Cleopatra and Antony, Radha and Krishna, Nu Lang and Jinyu, were not just tales of passion, they were reminders that love is stronger than time itself. Every culture has its own way of speaking about love, but the feeling is the same. The way someone looks at the one they love in India is the same as in Greece, in Egypt, in China, in your own home. Love is a language without words. It is a gaze, a laugh, a silence that says everything. Love has always been a bridge between hearts, between cultures, between the past and the future. Think of Alexander and Roxana. Their love was not just between two people, but a symbol of unity between two worlds. And your love, no matter how small it may seem, carries the same potential. Every act of love, even a kind word, ripples outward, touching lives you may never see. Let's take a moment of stillness now. Feel your heart beating. That heartbeat is ancient. It is the same rhythm that guided every love story we've spoken about tonight. You are part of this endless story. You are part of love's history. As we come to the close of this journey, think about the love in your life today. Who are the people you love? Who are the ones who love you? You may not say it every day, you may not even feel it all the time, but it's there, woven into every act of care, every shared moment, every silent understanding. Love transcends time, because it does not live in the past or future. It is always here, in the present. It waits in a quiet moment, like sunlight through the window, like the warmth of a smile. Even when life changes, love remains. It evolves, but it does not fade. Tonight, you've listened to the great loves of history, but the most important love story is the one you create every day, in every interaction, with every heartbeat. Love is not something you search for. It is something you carry inside. It is the light you bring to the world. Take one last deep breath. Hold it for a moment and let it go. Remember this: love has no end. It is the thread that connects all hearts, all times, all stories. As you step into tomorrow, carry this love with you, quietly, gently, like a flame that never fades. Good night.